Hey, it's Dr. Shantae, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So, if you are watching this, you are in part 5 of our Survival Lies series. And this whole series, we have been unpacking lies that we have learned through trauma. And the lie that we are unpacking today is joy can wait, happiness is for later. So, if you have ever caught yourself thinking, let me not be too happy because I'll jinx myself, or as soon as you feel any sort of joy or think like, hey, this might be lasting, I might be in a safe place, then something else in your brain goes, nope, you can't trust it. Because as soon as you start believing it, as soon as you start trusting it, something bad is going to happen. They're going to leave. They're going to break your heart. It's not going to last. So don't even get happy about it. Just keep your distance or keep it at arm's length. Don't trust joy. Don't trust happiness. And then some of us are living in what I call the when and thens. Well, when I lose 20 pounds, then I can be happy. Well, when I meet this certain condition, then I can be happy. Because somewhere along the line, you were taught that happiness and joy are only reserved for certain people, and you are not one of those people. Well, that's a whole lie. And so, if you fall into that category, we are going to unpack that today and get you right back on the road to joy and happiness. Keep watching. So, before we get into this, it's important for me to distinguish the difference between joy and happiness. Joy is more inward and internally focused. It is a knowing that regardless of what's happening in the world, that you are okay with yourself. That even though things may not be perfect, even though things could be better, that you are okay. You are okay with yourself, that you can look around your life and see things that you have gratitude for. For example, the joy in being able to do something like get up and walk without pain, the joy of having the independence to come and go as you wish, the joy of being in good health. You can recognize a contentment and a centeredness and a sense of alignment and peace because you have those things. Whereas happiness is really focused on what's happening. And so if you got a raise at work, you're happy about that. If you are in a new relationship that makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside, you're happy about that. If the sun is shining, hello Chicago, after a very dark and miserable spring, you're happy about that, right? And so that's kind of the key difference. Joy is more inwardly focused and happiness is more outwardly focused. But in either case, when you have been in survival mode does not lend itself to joy and happiness. It tells you that you can't trust it. It tells you that as soon as you get comfortable, as soon as you get cool, something bad is going to happen. The hammer is going to drop, the shoe is going to drop, and it's not going to last. And then you punish yourself like, see, that's what you get for having hope. See, that's what you get for thinking you were better than your circumstances. See, and so we keep ourselves at a set point of suspicion, distrust, dispassion, like, it's cool, it's fine. Or we have bought into this toxic drip of marketing and psychological manipulation that joy is for thin people, that happiness is for rich people, that you can't access joy when you are a single parent or a divorcee or you grew up on the wrong side of the track. Joy and happiness isn't for people like you, it's for these other people. And there's this sense that it's not attainable. And then there's also this conditioning that many of us adopted in childhood where a lot of our parents were like, hey, you can't go outside and play until you do your homework or until you clean up your room or until you take out the garbage or until you sweep out the garage. And while that is great for building a sense of responsibility and foundation and contribution in a child, when we grow up, we start to think that those two things can't exist. Well, happiness can wait because I've got work to do, or happiness can wait because I've got children to raise, or happiness can wait because I've got this other thing that I need to do. When the truth is, work and play can exist simultaneously. They can play nicely together in the same sandbox. It's called balance. So when you live your life waiting for the other shoe to drop, when you live your life looking over your shoulder because you can't trust happiness, and when good things happen to you, you can't fully embrace it and enjoy it because you feel like happiness is fleeting or people like you don't get to be happy, then happiness starts to feel like a threat. which is why a lot of people, when they have been in bad relationships or toxic relationships, or they've been in abusive relationships, so whether that's narcissistic abuse or whether that is physical and emotional and psychological forms of abuse and manipulation, when they finally get into a good relationship, their brain is like, what is this? It's foreign, it's unfamiliar, it's not safe, you don't trust it. And a lot of people will disrupt, will sabotage, will completely blow up what could have been a fabulous pairing, what could have been a wonderful relationship, because their nervous systems are like, no, you need to shut this down before you get hurt. You make the first move instead of waiting for them to make the next move. So you have so much anxiety about what could happen, about trusting happiness, trusting joy, being present and in the moment, that you will figure out a way to ruin it or disrupt it or sabotage it in some way, just so that you can have a sense of control, because control feels safer than trust. And so you postpone joy, you push it away, you don't trust it, but that is a very isolating experience. That is one of those things that leaves you longing and lacking and wishing for healthy social connections. The other part of this equation is what I call the when and thens. Well, when I get the money, when I lose the weight, when I pay off this, when I get the kids off to college. When you live in the when and thens, you are putting preconditions on your happiness. That happiness is not available, that joy is not accessible unless you meet certain criteria. And when you do that, you are placing yourself in that same toxic and traumatic trap that many of us grew up with. Well, you're not lovable unless you're getting good grades. Well, you're not lovable unless you are doing what I say. You're not lovable or worthy of love unless you are overgiving, overperforming, and overdoing. And so in this case, instead of somebody else doing it to us, it's us. We're the drama. So when you live your life in the when and thens and you decide, oh, I can't go to Italy unless I lose that weight, or I'm not going to put myself out in the dating market until I get back in the gym, then what you are saying is that as I am, my current self is not good enough for happiness. My current self is not good enough for joy. So when you do that, you are sending a bat signal out to the world that you are less, that you feel like you are less, that you feel like you are unworthy, that you feel like you haven't met the bar yet. And so don't look at me, don't interact with me, don't try to befriend me, don't try to get into a relationship with me until I get it all together. But that's not how this works. That is not how this works. Joy, happiness, and imperfection can coexist. Joy and healing can coexist. Sometimes we try to wait until we've got it all together, until we've got it all figured out. When that's going to happen? I don't have it all together. I don't have it all figured out. Believe me, honey, even Dr. Shantae has her days. But in the midst of the days, in the midst of the burdens that sometimes feel heavy, in the midst of the weight that is on my shoulders that I've been trying to unburden through years of therapy and trauma recovery and all the rest of it, joy has been my silver lining. Joy has been my true north, because instead of thinking that I had to wait for it, I realized that joy is accessible today. Joy is accessible today. A lot of times we tend to look at the glass half empty. We tend to focus on the things that we don't have instead of looking at the things that we do. And I'm not saying that gratitude is a replacement for grief, because it is completely understandable to have disappointment about the things in your life that are not going well. It is completely understandable to have disappointment in your life about the things that you wish were different, or wishing that your life was in a different place than it currently is. I don't want to in any way invalidate the very real grief that comes along with life's disappointments. But at the same time that disappointment is there, joy can also be there. And the recognition that we can be healing, but also be joyful, is very powerful. It means that you don't have to wait for it. You don't have to pursue it. It is there. It is here. It is today, and it is near. It is closer to you than you realize. And so, for example, let's take something like the US Open. My grandmother was a huge tennis fan. And so when we grew up, it was all about Chris Everett, Martina Navratilova, Andre Agassi, Pete Sampras. Like, my grandma was a tennis fan. Now, she was not athletic at all. She was not a gym goer. She was not a tennis player in any way, shape, or form. But one of her dreams that she never realized was going to the US Open. But those experiences can be expensive and exorbitant, and the travel and the logistics can be a lot, especially for a senior citizen. And there were so many ways that she accessed the joy of the sport. And so sometimes she would invite us all over and have watch parties for some of the key tournaments and some of the key matchups. And even though she wasn't there on the courts, she was able to facilitate connection with the people that she loved, with the sport that she loved, and she made it a joyful moment. And so it doesn't always have to be the big thing. That's something we can work up to, it's something we can aspire to, but it doesn't have to be either or, either the big thing or nothing. You know, that zero-sum game is a lose-lose situation. And so joy doesn't have to be massive, and happiness doesn't have to be massive. It can be small scale, but just as impactful. So, of course, I have reflection questions for you like I do in every episode of the series. And my first question for you is, what have you been putting off? What joy have you been withholding from yourself, waiting for the time to be right? So, what joy have you been putting off? What have you been putting on the back burner? What have you been withholding, waiting for the time to be right, the conditions to be right for you to meet certain criteria? That's the first question. And the second question is, how would your life be different if you let joy in today? If you could allow yourself to trust joy, if you could allow yourself to lean into those joyful, happy moments, how would your life be different than it currently is? So I want to end by saying, joy is not a destination. Joy is not for later. Joy is for now. It can coexist while you're healing. It can coexist while you're becoming the best and highest version of yourself. Allow yourself permission, okay? Open up the door just a crack, okay? Allow yourself permission to embrace joy, to embrace happiness. It's not something that you have to earn once you've lost 10 pounds. It's not something that you have to earn once you get the big promotion. It's not something that you have to earn, once you've met all of these other frivolous criteria. You can have it today. And it might not be the big thing, but there's a lot of little things that can fuel you, okay, that can drive you, that can become that inner light that you need in order to heal from trauma to begin with. So I hope this was helpful to you. I hope that you are going to aggressively pursue joy and let it into your heart and let it be your guiding light instead of the doubts, the fears, the distrust, and all the things. And if you enjoyed this content, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you on our finale. Our finale is coming up. We are going to be wrapping up our Survival Lies series, which is I have to be small in order to be loved. Too many of us are dimming our light. We're not being the best that we can be. We're not showing all the things that we can do because we are afraid that if we do that, somebody's going to get offended and they're going to walk out and they're not going to cheer for us and they're not going to be happy about it. So we are going to talk about all of that in our finale. Thank you for watching.